The following may contain offensive language, adult humor, and or content that some viewers may find offensive. The views and opinions expressed by any one speaker does not explicitly or necessarily reflect or represent those of Mark Radulich or W2M Network. Please listen with caution, or don't listen at all.
TV party tonight! What? TV party tonight! Oh, we got nothing better to do than watch TV and have a couple of brews.
Don't want to talk about anything else.
We don't want to know.
We're dedicated
To our favorite shows.
Oh my circuits!
Everybody loves Hippo Toes.
Scary dog!
Dancing at Blurnsville. Futurama.
Good evening. You are listening to a Radulich and Broadcasting premiere podcast, TV Party Tonight. I'm your host. I have 2 legs as opposed to 3, and you saw in that picture.
I was gonna say, you gotta let me redo that so at least it doesn't look like it's so obvious AI.
Oh man.
I need to know what
prompt. I need to know what service you used and what prompt you used. And I'm pretty sure with a little refining, like I can find a better one, and I might be able to give an artist a better template to work from.
Please,
that's fine.
Yeah.
The mandated reporter, and frankly, I abuse artificial intelligence, Mr. Mark Radulich. And tonight, our favorite show is The Boys, Season 4. Brought to you by the good people at Amazon Prime and a bunch of other studios, which are not up on the Wikipedia page. Joining me tonight is the 3 wise men. Wise man number 2, my brother from another mother, my partner in artificial intelligence musical crimes. Ladies and gentlemen, the kids call him Stiz Narkey. Jesse Starcher, how do you do, sir?
Oh, man. Glad to be back for The Boys. It's going to be a fun one.
And, of course, my co-host on Damn You Hollywood and the Homelander of the Radulich and Broadcasting Network.
Oh, come on. He's not the most evil person there, and you know
He
it.
will laser your face when you throw water bottles at his children. Ladies and gentlemen, Robert Winfree, how do you do, sir?
For the record, if I ever do have children and you do in fact throw detritus at them, yeah, I'm probably gonna end you.
Yeah, see, I'm not
Would you
wrong.
would you do if someone threw a water bottle at your pets?
That's gonna require I need knowledge of the inciting incident.
Okay.
If
You don't have kids, but you and I both have pets.
Look, if the cat is just chilling and somebody decides walking by, I'm gonna chuck a water bottle at it. Yeah, we got problems. I don't think murder problems, but we got problems. If the cat's being a dick and you throw a water bottle at it to get it to back off, I'm looking at the cat and going, "You asked for it."
Right. And inserting herself into the 3 wise men, the firecracker to R7, ladies and gentlemen, Alexis Hejna, how do you do?
That gets real weird because you just said I was Homelander.
Oh God!
Anywho. We're talking The Boys season 4.
I was going to say, of course I need to be here. This is technically my show.
No, it isn't. So anyway, so we've been doing The Boys now for several years. We did a couple of comics. We've done the show for the last 3 seasons. The 3rd season is one of my favorite podcasts we've ever done. It's right up there with the Reffin show we did. Jesse and I and Robert had a really great conversation about PTSD, toxic masculinity, regular old good old-fashioned masculinity. We talked about, because I just recently listened to it again, what was the big deal with the Herogasm episode and all of that.
Oh, boy.
Almost a 2-hour show, if I remember correctly. And we really dug deep into it. And if I had never talked about another season of The Boys again, I'd have been perfectly happy. But here we are with season 4, the most politically charged season yet. And I want to start off the general discussion, and then we're going to go around the table with kind of our bee in our bonnets, our, the thing that we really want to talk about. But I would say there's a line from the showrunner where, and I think it set the tone for the writing, and then, it really pointed the show in the direction that we saw, and it definitely deserves a comment or two. He said, there are people out there who watch the show and think Homelander's the hero. And what do you say to those people? And I made a comment. Jesse, I'm going to get you to respond to this first, but I'm going somewhere with this. So listen up. I'm watching season 4, and And I'm thinking about the good old days of when the show was subtle. And yes, I understand the show was never subtle.
Let's say, wait.
But the show wasn't
By comparison. By comparison,
the
if
show
nothing
wasn't
else.
the show wasn't quite hit you in the face with the broadside of a frying pan.
No, it was just hit you in the face with a rolled up newspaper.
As obtuse as this show has become. And the line I put on Facebook was, "Congratulations, The Boys season 4. You made Idiocracy look subtle." The other line I said, and this is what I want you to respond to. I said the 3 seasons prior felt satirical but biting. I felt they were pointed. They were looking at the term you used, Robert, when we talked about it offline was they sprayed the block. They looked around. They got everybody. They were obviously political.
There's no for the first 3 seasons. There was no element of either the entertainment media complex or the political landscape or the culture war. They shot everybody.
Right.
And it appears they didn't feel heard. And so taking all of that and then reacting to the Homelander thing of like, if you think Homelander is the hero, I don't know what to say to you anymore. To the point where it felt like they had to make the show obvious, obtuse, just so direct it loses the elements that made it kind of a fun watch, number one. Number two, it reduced its effectiveness to nothing. It works just fine as entertainment. If I have to hear any of you tell me, but I liked it, I don't care. Yes, it was entertaining. We were all entertained by the jiggling keys, people. Let's not... We got it. The show is no longer effective, Jesse. That's my problem with season 4. Because they're so mad, they overreacted like a moody teenager and wrote the show to the point where all it is now is fluffy entertainment, and either you like it or you don't, but it doesn't quite have the bite that it used to.
Okay. So, I saw your comments, and actually, you ever start like a post in the chat and then realize, nah, I don't want to do that because
every fucking day of my life.
Yeah. So I immediately was like, I've got something to say. And I was like, no, I'm going to wait for the podcast. And really, it is. Well, I don't think it's going to be that revelatory because most
Jesse,
likely you did.
Everything you say is magic.
Sure. When you're looking these things up, that's from the showrunners and stuff like that, are they trying to say that they have a message that they're trying to send out there? Or is it a situation where they finally have just said, you know what? Let's just ape reality and make it some kind of twisted way that we want to, and damn the message. I never, going into this, I understand you're like, oh man, what are they saying there? It's not, too subtle at all, what they're trying to say. And my honest opinion is like, they don't care. They're just going to they're going to take their shots, and there isn't a message anymore. For me, it's, okay, whose head's going to explode next? What limb is going to get this, taken off? How are we going to kill somebody this episode? And in some inventive way possible, which there were quite a few different ways this season. But yeah, I mean, if they're trying to make a statement, yes, they've clearly broken the bat over our heads, and there really isn't much else that we could take from what we're seeing here, because it's quite obvious that there's something wrong with society. And if they're trying to make a statement on it, fine, great, go for it. But I honestly don't take it like that anymore. Okay. It's fun to kind of dig into it, but we dug into it already. Now it's leaning into it. Go ahead.
Okay, let me add this to it. And Alexis, I'm going to let you take a turn at responding to the conversation we're having. Something that I say to my dad all the time is, you're a smart guy. Hang on. You're a smart guy. You have you have very important things to say, and you're very passionate about it. Your delivery is so awful and so bad and so mean that even if you're right, I'm not listening anymore. That's what the show turned into for me. What do you think about that? And did you have a similar reaction or like the opposite reaction? You were like, yes, more of this, please.
I guess it's very hard to try to word this without adding in my own political or political opinions. So it's not a case of I don't have anything to say. It's okay. How do I say this without sounding like you guys are going to come after me with torches and pitchforks?
Well, go ahead and give it your best shot. If I feel like you're going overboard, I'll stop you.
I felt that, yes, it was overboard, but the state of our country right now has become something out of a South Park episode. Not even that, because Parker and Stone have openly admitted, we're tired of, it's like of this, because whatever we come up with, you guys are coming up with something even freakier. They openly admit it's like, okay, this is getting too much even for us. So I guess I look at it's like, yeah, it is a little weird, but at the same time, they're saying things. It's like, I heard the exact same thing on the news last night. I heard the exact same thing out of the vice presidential candidate's mouth or something. It's like, yeah, it's weird, but it's very similar to what we're dealing with in the here and now. So I guess I kind of look at it's like, it's bizarre, but oddly enough, it's kind of reality.
I mean, as a reflection of the tone and tenor of the national conversation and what's going on in the political arena, sure. I think that's my frustration, though, is there's holding up a mirror to it, Robert, and then there's commenting on it, and they stopped holding up a mirror, and now they're just commenting on it, but they're commenting on it from a very specific point of view, and it's a bit of a turnoff for me. What do you think?
There's a few things that went sideways for them this season. If we're just going to talk like broadly.
Yeah.
First of all, gentlemen, we all sat here at our review of season 3 and said they can't do this again. Right?
We did say that, yes.
And they tried. And
what did they do? They tried to do the same thing again, and it fell flat on its face. Because you couldn't do it again. You did everything you could have possibly done with the basic setup and the basic plots, the template they were following. You can't do it any better than you just did. And now you needed to actually do something, and congratulations, you didn't. It's when we get into more specifics, I'll yell about what I think, how that could have been fixed and whatnot. But so there's that. They tried to hold the status quo for one season too long, and poor decision, very poor decision. Secondly, this is what happens when you're not responsible enough as a human being to understand when you're being trolled. No one of any note thinks Homelander is the hero. There's a handful of very disaffected people who might have that reading, and you ignore them. But then there's the few people who are mostly terminally online who have nothing better to do with their life than to feed into this. Mm-hmm. This is the trolling. And apparently you fell for it hook, line, and sinker. And you burned a lot of money on a giant waste of time and almost killed your IP. So good job.
All right, let's get into the actual show here. Alexis, I know you said you enjoyed the season. You were very entertained by it. What's at least one thing, one burning desire about this show that you want to talk about?
Well, as you guys know, I've mentioned this before on both Damn You Hollywood and TV Party Tonight. I love something that has a good villain in it. And this season, we not only had Homelander, we also got the introduction of 2 more members of the 7, Sister Sage and Firecracker. Firecracker alone, I cannot remember the last time I wanted to physically punch a fictional character. It's like, wow, move over Dolores Umbridge. I found a new topic for my rage.
Firecracker's a fairly effective hate sink, but I'd still rank her below both Dolores Umbridge is still at the top of that list.
Fair enough, yeah.
But right below her is actually I can't remember the character's name, but I'll mention it. But you saw Midnight Mass. You know who I'm referencing.
Oh yeah. The assistant to the minister.
Yeah. She's a solid second place in that discussion, and Firecracker's somewhere in the top 5, but the distance between those top 2 and everyone else is still quite large.
I'm gonna set you up here, Alexis. I'm gonna lob you a softball. Okay. So in our group chat, I said, Firecracker seems like a self-insert for the writers who seem like they just want to fuck. Oh damn it! What's the radio host? The crazy one.
Which one? Alex Jones.
Alex Jones. Thank you. Take two. They wanted.
No idea how little that narrowed it down.
Michael Medved. No.
That's you.
Yeah, it seems like they just want to hate fuck Alex Jones, and then you threw another name at me, and because I don't follow a lot of the niche political stuff anymore like I used to. I didn't really know who you were talking about, but when I dug into it just a little bit just to see what the fuck you were talking about, like, oh, okay, I get why you're saying that now.
Yeah, without going into too much of what we said, case in point, Firecracker is the redheaded bastard child of Alex Jones and Marjorie Taylor Greene. That's not me like slamming or anything. It's like, no, that is like literally what she is. Even the writers admit it. They took a lot from Marjorie Taylor Greene in her random as fuck ravings.
You know what she reminded me of? Bill O'Reilly in a stripper outfit. You know, if you watch the novel, again, this might be showing my age. Again, not a commentary on his political philosophy. This is a presentation issue. Bill O'Reilly, at the height of his powers, there was a lot of, especially on Fox, there's a lot of red, white, and blue lights and color around him. He had a kind of a lean. The way that she would do like the truth bomb in the show is kind of how he would present at the height of its power, the O'Reilly factor. It was, we are Bill O'Reilly was like he presented himself as like the paragon of the middle of the road, kind of leaning right. And it was always like, we are getting to the bottom of the man situation. We are dealing with the problems of this world. And it's like, okay, take it easy there, Bill O'Reilly. And that's how they do her, is whatever other politician she's aping, she's got, she's doing that kind of Alex Jones, Bill O'Reilly, like we're giving you the truth that the other networks are too scared to tell you about. And it's because there's so much inherent distrust of the media, which we talked about last season and in a few other shows. People are so willing to believe nutcases who just, as Robert says, say the thing you're thinking out loud, so because that's what you want to believe is true. And it's really it's evil, but it's also really effective.
Well, even Firecracker says something about this when she's being scouted by Sister Sage, and we find out that her superpower is, let me see here, useless.
Hang on. That is not a useless superpower. You just need the appropriate budget to make it work. And they wasted all their money on much worse CGI. I'm going to yell about that later. The effects this season are ass.
Okay, well, there's a scene, when she's scouting her at that Truth Con, and yes, those do exist, and asking her, it's like, well, why do you do this? Because it's clear that she is not as crazy as it comes across. She is really building up her audience and really getting them hyped up on this kind of stuff. She's like, why do you do that? And she talks about how these people want purpose. They want to know that they matter, and they want to know that there is something that they can believe in. The problem is Firecracker is getting them to believe in something that they hate. Yeah,
it's effective. People look.
Well, that's what the internet's all about, buddy.
I mean, people. I'm gonna say this: if this hurts your feelings, I'm sorry. I'm not aiming it at anyone particular. That's on you if you take it that way. But there are people who it's so much easier to tear things down and criticize them than it is to build things up or give solid solutions to fix things. It's a lot easier to destroy than it is to build.
Let me piggyback on that for just a second, because this goes to what Firecracker's character does, but it's a lot easier to point fingers and complain.
Yeah.
I mean, for the love of all that's holy, this is not the way I'm going to phrase this is deliberately so you understand my complaints are generalized here. The southern border of the United States has been a catastrophe for the majority of my lifetime. Right? Last I checked, both parties have been in power Nobody cares enough to fix it because they want to run on it. And if you actually fix something, the incentive structure is ass backwards, because if you actually accomplish something, they think the perception is you are no longer needed, therefore you are no longer you lose your job. Whereas if everything's a constant crisis, and this is just what the two-party fallacy and 24-hour cable news and all of it has just culminated in basically kind of where we are now, where nothing is done. Everyone's corrupt. So either side of the aisle, like ask California where the billions of dollars for their high-speed bullet train rail system have gone, because I don't know, they ain't built anything. But again, nothing actually gets fixed, because if you actually fixed the problem, you can't run on it when the next election cycle comes up. And hey, we've got to get back here in 2 years, right?
If you want another example of that really, really quickly, and this is not an invitation to discuss the issue, this is just a fact of life. Zillions of dollars dumped into the drug war, and the reason why they dumped zillions of dollars into the drug war, whether you think it's a good idea or a bad idea, is immaterial. It's so that we can have a drug war to run on. Because when you're contributing to, when your policy, when your platform is law and order, you need there to still be a drug war. Or because weirdly enough, the law and order people are never talking about lowering the murder rate. They're talking about getting rid of drugs. And this is something people have very strong opinions. It's like abortion, the same thing. It's one of those things where very rarely does anything of consequence ever get done about abortion, good, bad, or indifferent. But boy, does that get people all riled up and interested and willing to give you money. Jesse, you're nodding a lot. Did you want to contribute to any part of this?
No, you guys keep going. I love listening to every little bit of it.
Well, I'm not letting you off the hook. She brought up she brought up Firecracker. Your thoughts, sir?
Oh, well, I mean, yeah, she's definitely a good villain here. I was sitting here thinking, like, the second one that you were going to talk about, would that have been Sage?
Yeah, I have a lot to say about Sage, but I wanted to stay on Firecracker for a bit.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, Firecracker's good villain here. I mean, you mentioned about building an audience. The only thing I could sit there and think of is like, content creators, and she was creating that content, trying to get everybody out there and building upon the hate of the internet. That's an easy thing to do, and you get a lot of fans doing that.
What I say on the Sons of Anarchy
not as
reviews,
many as you used to.
My dad gets my dad gets likes on TikTok because he says stupid shit like, I don't understand why the guy who shot at Trump didn't kill more people. He could have, and I don't, because I try to keep the level of discourse on here, believe it or not, dick jokes aside, somewhat intellectual, but no one cares.
Wow.
No one cares. And so Firecracker, folks. So I will be showing up next week in a leotard, red, white, and blue with my cleavage.
Oh,
moving on.
Yes.
For the record, when Jesse's done, there is something else about Firecracker I want to talk about, but please, Jesse, go ahead.
I'm pretty much done. I mean, she was a good villain. She was fun. I wanted to see her suffer. Did not get to see it much this season. I know.
She took the drugs so she could produce milk so she could seduce Homelander. That seems to be killing her slowly. That's fun.
Yeah. And
look, if we're not dying for our kinks, what are we living for?
Homelander's like, I need you to sit like 3 seats away, please. Stop coughing all over
you're
me.
grossing me out. Go away. No
and
further.
You just see her soul leave her body because she felt so bad. And she just wants his acceptance. She'll do anything, obviously. But yeah, so boy, she's going to get hers in the end. I was just in something where the actress that portrays her wants her character to die. So
yeah.
Firecracker in her first feature film, desperately seeking approval.
It's probably like the whole thing with Cersei in Game of Thrones, where like, okay, please tell us that you have planned a most glorious, suffering, fitting death for this character, because if Firecracker just gets a bunch of rocks falling on her in the cavern, we're all going to be pissed.
Yeah, that would be sad.
At this point, my genuine hope for their conclusion to season 5 is nuclear holocaust.
Oh man. Probably within the realm of possibility.
So Alexis, and I'll let you speak on it first, but I want to introduce the topic. You brought up Sister Sage. Let me get this out, and then I'll let you take over. She's my favorite character of this season. She's the only part of the show that didn't aggravate me on an ongoing basis. I had a conversation with Jonas last night, and it's like it's hard being smart around people. No one's interested in your good ideas. No one's interested in your criticisms. No one's interested in you saying anything but parroting back to them what they already think. So when you're a genius, when you have ideas, when you are a critical thinker, life can be very isolating and very difficult.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, I didn't want to point to you personally, but yeah.
It's okay. I have accepted that's one of my crosses to bear.
Yeah, well, you and my son. So, and so there's Sister Sage, and it's a character that, because of Robert, because of myself, because of my son, because of my dad, I definitely related to, because here she is, kind of like Marvin from the Hitchhiker's Guide, brain the size of a planet, and they ask me to peel potatoes. She's this genius, but she's also black and a woman, and no one listens to her. It's like, wow, of all the satire, of all the
once
points
again,
of criticism,
subtlety has left the building.
Well, I was gonna say it was about the only thing that truly resonated in any kind of biting, satire for this show.
Well, I mean, you get that speech she gives to Neuman about how she figured out, what was it, a cure for leukemia?
Yeah,
when she was a child, and she told the doctors to save her grandmother away, and they laughed her out. They're like, "Oh, that's adorable. Why don't you go sit over there?"
Yeah.
And yeah, it is actually fascinating to watch her, because she's a character who knows exactly how this is all going to play out, and she knows that she has to keep this from Homelander. She's like, it's just fascinating for this character. She is literally seeing 20 moves ahead on the chessboard.
I'm going to make a bold statement. She's the best villain on TV I've seen in years, and this is the only reason why. She's the only one that isn't out to accomplish anything of value, in the sense of, like, I'm not out to take over the world. She's the exact opposite of Cassandra Nova. I'm not out to take over the world. I don't want to blow up the universe. I'm not trying to be king. She literally was just like, I would like to execute an idea I've had and see if it works out. And her reaction to it is the best bit of acting in the entire show. At the end, when she hands him the Homelander the cell phone, and he was like, "But for why?" And he was like, "Because I wanted to see if I could do it," and I did. So much fun. And she skips merrily out of the scene. I'm like, that's the best part of this entire show for me.
I will say this, given to both the actors and the writing, there was so much fan theory going around about what side Sage was actually on. There were so many people saying she's going to pull the rug out from under Homelander. She's actually planning to usurp him. She's going to take a... I don't think anyone knew exactly what her end goal was. And I really like that. For the first time, it's like we were all guessing. No, we didn't even know. How often have we been like, yeah, we knew this was coming a mile away. We all the fans guessed it. Everyone was talking about online. None of us knew exactly what Sage was thinking.
The parallels between nihilism and genius, I think, are pretty strong. And, the idea of you're so smart, that there are just certain things that are unavoidable in this universe. And the fact that she took a giddy amount of joy in executing a coup. And she was like, okay, I did a thing. Like, she did that. Like some of us talk about posting a podcast or making an AI song. It was Mamma Mia, I smelled that pizzeria, whatever the fuck it was you said.
Great song.
Genius thoughts.
I'll link it in the comments, folks. Don't worry.
Thanks. It was the oatmeal again.
There you go.
Of genius thoughts. Jesse, since I got you laughing, tell me about your thoughts on the Sister Sage, any bit of the show that you want to point at.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so I was definitely one of those people that was like, okay, how is she going to do this? And I should have known better. I should have known that she's most likely just going to be in it for herself, because that's pretty much what everybody is in this show. Everybody's in this for themselves, and but she was portrayed fantastically. I love the fact that her brain just continues to regenerate, and when shoots her in the head, I was like, oh man, she's dead. And I was like, oh wait a second, she's not dead.
Right.
She's going to get right back.
She's just temporarily stupid.
Yeah, her going out there
with her eating the cake.
The cake,
yeah,
it was so good.
It was good.
What happened to you? Brain damage.
By the way, how hilarious was the reveal that she was sleeping with both Black Noir and the Deep, but Black Noir didn't have to lobotomize her.
Oh yeah,
it wasn't typical. It wasn't hilarious. It was typical. But I don't want to do an hour on male-female relationships, Robert will shoot himself on the podcast. Speaking of Robert, what'd you think of Sister Sage or any part of her involvement in the show?
I was not as engaged as you all seem to have been. For a couple of reasons. On a meta level, I always struggle with. I like the concept, but I have so very rarely seen a smartest person in the world power gimmick not be contrived and kind of stupid. Because this is the smartest person in the world, right? So they calculate probabilities and they see X number of moves ahead. And the problem with most of these characters, and I do mean most of them, I don't care what medium you're in. This doesn't matter. Comic books, novels, television, movies, take your pick. They're only as smart as the people writing them.
That's a limitation.
And what winds up happening frequently is everything they do comes across like I read the script.
Hey, I want to break in. I want to let you keep going, but it's funny you mentioned that because that's actually something the showrunners talked about. They were like, she's only as smart as we are, and we're not that bright. Like, wow. Well, then, hats off to you.
At least they know.
Refreshingly honest. So that it becomes too contrived. Their intelligence and their, of course, I predicted everything. Well, nothing you ever said or did indicated that that's how this was going to end up. Like, well, of course, I couldn't let you know that I was knowing this. The writer has to make me seem like I'm smart, so I just look like I read the script. And it's stupid, and it's not engaging, and this goes for Reed Richards, this goes for Victor Von Doom, this goes for Tony Stark, this goes for Sherlock Holmes, this goes for all of them. You have to be very careful how you construct those kinds of characters. When the best iteration of that trope is still freaking Columbo, that should tell you something.
One more thing. Sorry, I was quoting Columbo.
No, I know.
I'm like, what is it, boy? Did Jimmy fall in the well? What?
Oh, yeah, just one more thing. What is your shoe size again?
There we go.
Sorry, I'm not 100 and didn't watch Columbo.
It's
I
on
didn't watch it either.
It's on YouTube. The younger kids love it, actually.
My
you go.
introduction
They
to
do.
Columbo was a Tiny Toons Adventures cartoon where they parodied it, and I had to ask somebody, how come Buster and Babs have their eyes going in opposite directions?
Of course it was. All right. If there's nothing else on Sister Sage, Robert, I'm going to move on a thought.
So that's always a bit of a problem. And it's a hurdle they don't completely clear here. They don't run face forward into it, but they don't completely clear it.
That's fair.
What?
I said that's fair.
Okay. The gag of I must lobotomize myself because the pain of existence becomes too much is
All too real.
I'm not saying it
Think
isn't.
about that today.
I had to turn away during that. Credit
Oh,
to
the eyeball?
the visual
Lobotomy
effects
scene?
department. That I don't know exactly how they did that, and I don't think I want to because the scene where they actually show the pick next
They
to
were-
I'm like,
they
no,
They
look at-
were definitely pushing the cringe envelope this season.
Well-
I mean, as much as they can.
All right. What were you actually trying to say?
Also for that scene, I get why people have a reaction to it. Can I ruin your day on this?
Oh,
Please. What wouldn't it
Why
wouldn't
not?
be
Why
a
stop
Rattle
now?
Broadcasting podcast with you if you
That's
didn't.
why I came on here. I wanted you to ruin my day, please.
Yeah, it's like, hang on, I got the popcorn. I'm gonna just sit back and enjoy this.
I'm this close to putting you full screen.
half of the scenes with that are done at the wrong angle.
Oh,
You don't actually
he's
go
going to make it
straight back.
worse. He's going to
You
make
go
it
up.
worse.
Okay.
you
what-
actually know how to do.
I don't care.
lobotomy
Take
with
two.
an
Okay,
What were you
hang
actually
on.
going to say?
Here, hang on, no, just because you asked. The purpose of a lobotomy is to get the frontal lobe, right? You get the stuff up here.
Who? Alexis asked. This is what you're
I
doing this
said,
for.
I didn't ask
Oh, I
how
want-
you
I
do
want
it.
This is
every
why.
detail.
This is why I didn't want you on this podcast. What you make it do?
I
didn't
want every
ask-
detail.
I didn't ask how. I asked, why do you know this?
What
Let
do you
me-
mean? Don't do that, Alexis.
Okay, well, hang on. Let me tell you. So,
Oh, jeez.
I'll be-
I'm listening to every
I'm
word.
sorry.
I'm listening.
so again, the purpose is to separate the connective tissue of the rest of the brain from some of the stuff in the frontal lobe. And they got it right. You go in through the eye. In fact, if you do a properly done lobotomy, all you get is a black eye. You don't even have that much swelling. You go through the thinnest part of the ocular cavity, which is not the straight back. It's actually a little bit angled up. And if you go straight back through the eye into that part of the brain, profile, if you go through here, this is kind of more important than this.
This is where we don't.
This is like higher functioning. This is like language centers and some motor function. Most of that's way back there.
Begging you for the fourth time. What were you actually trying to say?
This was me, by the way, the whole scene.
Oh my God!
Go ahead. All right, I'm done talking.
What I was trying to say is, this is another bit of those like quasi-social commentary moments that's just, it's too on the nose to be enjoyable.
Okay.
Like, I must suffer brain damage so that I can eat a bloomin' onion. First of all, you don't need brain damage to enjoy those. Then watch Transformers 2. You do need brain damage to watch that.
Yeah.
The one with the racist robots. I honestly said out loud when she said that, that doesn't narrow it down as much as you think it does.
Okay. I'm moving this on. Jesse, what burning desires do you have about this show that you brought to this podcast to talk about, you professional podcaster? You.
Oh, yeah, sure. Set me up like that. Watch me not follow through.
I was going to say, now let me down like everyone else has in my life.
Yes, be ready. No, I mean, really, I think high points for me this season, I've already mentioned, which was just I understand they pushed the cringe envelope. I kind of liked it. I did. That's just me. That the gore was over the top. I mean, I don't know. It seems like this season was just a lot more than what I've. Maybe there's stuff I forgot. But
there is.
Okay. I mean, my gosh, Huey's dad, running through the hospital, killing people left and right accidentally. Them having to saw off Kamiko's leg so the virus doesn't get to her, which it's kind of tame, but I mean, they didn't like shy away too much.
Well, I mean, her leg grew back, but she still had to endure the pain of having it
right
through. She's got a high pain tolerance, but she still feels that shit.
Right.
Yeah, and last year we watched the most recent Saw movie where somebody did that to themselves, so this all felt kind of tame.
Okay, all right. Heads exploding left and right. But my favorite episode of all had to be when they went to the Veed-Up farm. And they're
okay. Hang on. Because I was wondering if you were going to bring it up or not. Jesse, and I'm only talking to Jesse right now.
Okay, that's
Jesse.
me. That's me.
When they went to the farm and they dealt with the flying sheep, were you not getting fucking asshole vibes from Doom Patrol?
The butt zombies or whatever.
The butt zombies,
were?
yes.
Yeah,
I was getting butt zombie vibes. I was like, oh, watch butt zombies show up in fucking The Boys.
That would be great.
Singing Joopy.
I mean, I don't know. Doom Patrol is out there. If The Boys adopted butt zombies, I would call shenanigans because I'd be like, well, wait a second. Listen, I can handle Veed-Up sheep, but I don't know about this. But yeah, I mean, that episode was entertaining for me. I thought it was hilarious because I think they see a rabbit that's laying on the ground who's beat up. I forget how they end up running into the farm, the first animal that they run into, but it wasn't a sheep. It was something else.
Wasn't it a bull or a cow or something?
The bull, I'm pretty sure, I think came afterwards as they're walking down the road. Chickens, yes, the chickens, because they come running out of the farm because one of them shot through the guy's chest. That's
yeah.
Anyway, so I love that. I love that part of the episode. I will say, as far as criticism wise goes for this season, we really spent a lot of time with Butcher getting sick, and it just drove me up the wall. And every time he's on the screen, I'm just like, okay, what are we doing here? It drug it out, in my opinion. It felt
what
like filler.
saves it for me is
that's the subheading of this entire season is they drug it out.
Well, hang on, that's my opinion of all the Frenchie stuff, but. What saves the Butcher getting sick subplot, and I understand it drove you up the wall. You're entitled to have that opinion. I liked it for this reason and this reason only. the not sexual tension, the rapport between Jeffrey Dean Morgan and the actor who plays Billy Butcher,
Carl Urban.
Carl Urban. Yeah, like those two lit up the screen. Like I want a buddy cop now between Jeffrey Dean Morgan and Carl Urban. That was one of the them just talking to each other. I didn't really care what they were saying at any point. I just liked them on screen together. And they did a far better reveal that he's a part of Carl Urban's or Billy Butcher's
I will agree with
psyche
this.
than
that scene was
Fight Club could ever
brilliant.
have hoped to. You know, that being
Yeah.
like the most obvious comparison. When when they go back through and you see him like everything that he this is why it's better than Fight Club. Everything that he was doing where he's actually talking to himself was actually plausible. It's not in Fight Club to my point. So yeah, the Carl Urban Jeffrey Dean Morgan stuff was phenomenal in my opinion.
Okay, I'll give you that because I did
On
like
a performance level.
Right. The Frenchie stuff you mentioned too. Yeah, that did definitely seem to fill things out too.
Oh my God, if you cut that, you'd have 3 episodes of this entire season.
Colin,
If you don't mind me butting in with one of my major criticisms here of this show,
be my guest.
everything we do is a bad rehash of stuff we've already done, and it takes forever to do it. We've already done Kimiko's past. We've already done Frenchie's trauma and drug use. We've already done Mother's Milk dealing with, oh, my wife and daughter are with, I'm divorced, but I still want to be here for my family. We've already done Butcher being like, I must be a good father figure to this kid because Homelander's Homelander. We've already done this better.
Robert,
And now we're just
honest question. Was there any part of the season you liked?
yes.
Okay, and we'll get
The
to that in just
lobotomy.
a few minutes. So keep
No,
going,
that
Robert.
bothered me.
Oh my God.
Inaccuracy, just too much inaccuracy.
We've
on
already-
those shots.
So you were saying we've already done XYZ better in previous seasons. Keep going.
I'm gonna let Jesse but because you brought up the Frenchie stuff, this season of television is the television equivalent of this meeting could have been an email.
It's great.
If you look, and I mean that purely like a plot in terms of plotting and structure. You've got enough story for 2 episodes of television here. If we actually look at it and break it down, 2. This should have been the first 2 episodes of the final season, not 8 episodes that nobody cares about.
I'm gonna go back to Robert in just a second, but there is one thing I want to bring up. It's the only thing other than the stuff I talked about at the start of the podcast that's for me even worth discussing. And that is there's a sequence of events that has a shapeshifter taking the shape of Starlighter, and she sleeps with
Huey
a couple of times so that she can get information, and then she gets close to the president, and we have that whole exchange. And we have a couple of sequences of her having kidnapped the actual Starlighter and having a dialogue with her,
Starlight.
tormenting her. Starlight. Anyway, so when the jig is up, Starlight gets free. She ends up killing the shapeshifter. And there's a conversation, and I swear to God, Jesse, Alexis, this has got to be the most honest to God accurate argument between a man and a wife, between a man and a woman that I've seen captured on TV, and I don't think they meant to do it, but she's mad at Huey for having slept with the shapeshifter, and Huey's going
perfect replica, mind you. This is not just someone. Her powers are not. This is important, believe it or not.
Yeah,
her powers are not limited to I take on your appearance.
Yeah.
She knows your life. She gets your life, your memories, your everything goes up here.
Right.
So she's not, this is not one of those bits where it's like, oh, it's not the T-1000 who touches you and then has to create some approximation of what they think you're like. This shifter, part of that power set is
becomes
everything you've ever done, everything you've ever thought, all of it is in my head now. And it makes, it axes out so much of the BS that normally goes with the Mystique powers.
So logically, there's no reason for Starlight to be angry with Huey. It's an understandable mistake.
Oh yeah.
And yet, this woman, this woman is screaming and yelling at poor Huey. And then Huey's like, but wait, I actually did notice some differences. I noticed that the whole thing, I'm a unique snowflake and you didn't. Forgot all the things that make me unique and wonderful, and you had sex with this other person. You emotionally cheated on me, is a phrase I hear bandied about. And there's poor Hugh going, but I actually did notice some differences. You can't find your keys on the first shot. There was a couple of other things that she does, where it's like, no, that doesn't seem like it's you. So I realized all too late that it wasn't you, and ultimately, isn't that what's important? And no, no, it is not. I'm so mad at you.
The subtitle said quietly, I can't. And as she walks off, I'm like, son of a bitch, you could.
I do love how they wrap up the fight.
Off at that.
I do love how they wrap up the fight with her saying, you're getting tested for every STD. And Hugh was basically like, that means she wants to sleep with me again. Okay, good. We moved on.
I'll take the win.
We were progressing.
I'm not, especially with Alexis being here, I don't want to be my typical, casually misogynist self. But it was a very human moment between a typical way a woman acts and a typical way a man acts in a relationship where not a lot of it makes any sense. And there's definitely that Chris Rock moment of, I have this unwavering need to make sense, and then there's the woman going in the running right up the down staircase and the guy going, but I love you anyway. And it was one of those where, of all the absurdity that happens in this show, it was one of the most, other than the stuff with Sage I talked about, it was one of the most real moments to me. If you guys want to piggyback on that, be my guest. Alexis, anything else?
Speaking of the shifter, it's a production thing, but I do want to give a little call out to this. The shifter we see changes their appearance by kind of pulling their skin off.
Oh, that was gross.
But this is actually a callback to Kripke's previous show, Supernatural, which of course had shapeshifters, and that's how they changed as well. Although admittedly on Supernatural, it took a lot longer and it was a lot gorier because it wasn't a just pull, okay, I'm good, I've got clothes underneath. It was rip everything off. But still, it's like, Kripke's channeling his old show. Cool. I love it when they throw in little production nods like that.
Jesse, do you want to piggyback on the Starlight Huey stuff?
I got X-Men 97 vibes. Poor Scott Summers.
Sorry, I don't watch children's TV shows. Go ahead. What are you talking about?
I'm speaking to the actual audience, not you.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I'll shut up.
Let me guess. Madeline Pryor, Jean Grey. You're talking to her telepathically. That was our shtick.
That was what immediately entered my mind because I was like, Scott had no out. Neither did poor Huey here. I mean, no matter what he said, it just wasn't going to even work at all for Starlight. Mm-hmm. So, but Robert, go ahead.
No. Finish. I thought you were done.
No, I think the only thing I was going to say was just that, hey, poor Huey, he's got a chance now. He can make it through. He can actually finally say that, okay, she's possibly going to come back to me. So, all right.
Every man's dream. My woman's less mad at me today than she was yesterday.
Right.
You asked to be here, Alexis.
Can I just have to bring this up about that scene in particular?
Oh, please, by all means. But then go into. I'm going to keep with you, so get to it.
Okay. It seems like this season they did a lot less of splattering Mr. Quaid with gore.
Mm-hmm.
In favor of sexually assaulting him.
Oh man!
Oh, he still got splattered with gore.
He did, but this was not like that. Poor guy got the Sam Raimi treatment in the previous 3 seasons.
It didn't change much this season, but they added the additional sexual assault.
Oh, yeah.
Did you see the news reports that said Zendaya should be apologized to that they used her name as the safe word?
Yeah, people need to get lives. Hey, Robert, the kids want to know what was the thing you liked most about this season? What was your most favoriteest thing? Your bestest?
All right. Uniquely positive. there's one good episode. Other episodes have parts that are okay. But if there's one top to bottom actually good episode in this godforsaken season, it's episode 4. It's 4 or 5. I have to double check. It's called Beware the Jabberwock, my son.
That's the farm episode.
Is it?
The farm beware.
Yeah, okay.
Beware the Jabberwock is the farm episode.
Start
Okay, so
describing it,
there's-
we'll figure it out.
And
There's
that's also the episode. I'm assuming you're talking about Simon Pegg's.
Yeah.
That man so deserves an Emmy performance.
There's 3 things going on in that episode. And one of them is our exploration of the barnyard, which, if I'm going to be honest, I was disappointed in. I wanted more. I really wanted more of that because
more animals.
the premise of flying super sheep, come on. You could do more with that. You really could have. But okay. So I was a little let down. That's my expectation. That's on me. We get the greatest lampooning of, when I say convention culture, I don't mean honest to God convention culture. I mean what it's turned into. Because, Alexis goes to a bunch of these things. You know the difference between I'd say real, because that's a bit too pejorative, but for the sake of simplicity, between a real convention and what Comic-Con turned into.
A political rally.
And a celebration of your parasocial relationship with a multi-billion-dollar international corporation that doesn't know you exist and doesn't care if you'll ever die.
Fair.
Hey, here's our 17 phases.
Right.
Hey, it's been a year since my last movie. How about a reboot?
Oh boy.
The fact that this came out and like a month or 2 later, hey, Robert Downey Jr. is coming back as Victor Von Doom. You can't satirize real life anymore. You just can't do it. We've become a parody of ourselves. So that's going on, and that's actually like the best satirical stuff this season gets, is when they lampoon that. And you have the actual heart of the episode, which is Simon Pegg, who plays Huey's dad. His mom has come back because Huey's dad at the beginning of the season has a stroke. And it's a bad one. And he is not really expected to recover. And Huey's mom shows back up. And if you go, wait a minute, what was up with Huey's mom? Well, she left when he was 6 and has not been seen since. And that's the deal there. So there's some friction there with Huey and his mom, which is, it's okay. Objectively, it's okay stuff. It's not great. It's fine. Perfectly acceptable. But part of this is Huey struggling with, what am I going to do about my dad? He's in a almost vegetative state. He's in a coma. And he has specific DNR, he's got a living will that his wife / ex-wife, estranged, is the executor of. And Huey is a little pissed about this for understandable reasons, I think. And the long and the short of this is he gets his hand on some Compound V. Because if you give someone superpowers, that should fix what happened to his brain. And his struggle is Compound V makes people bad. There's something about the process. It doesn't just give you superpowers. It kind of starts you turning into the worst version of yourself as a general rule. And do I want to do this? To, my older, he's not decrepit, but my older dad, do I really want to do this? And we don't know what's going to happen if I do this to someone who's had this kind of brain damage. And so he's conflicted about this, and ultimately he brings it with him to the hospital as they've removed his feeding tube, but he's not on a ventilator. So it's like, now you just wait for him to starve to death, basically. And he agonizes a bit over do I really want to do this? And he decides not to. But his mom sees the vial and winds up giving enough of it to his dad to facilitate the process. So he wakes up and his power is rapid vibrating through things. He can actually get between the molecular structure of things, which
It's phasing. Let's call the
Yeah.
power by its name.
Yeah.
yeah.
Which is fine as long as you don't stop midway.
which he does because his brain is not fully healed. And I've mentioned before on a few different podcasts we've done that people in my life, family and people who are close enough to be family, have done the Alzheimer's, dementia, like that has affected them. So that being that's what his dad is going through. He forgets where he is. He forgets what he's doing. And it's super powered because he has these powers he can't control. And when he wakes up, when he comes back to himself and freaks out and is just there and scared, I've had that. Like, not just like that. I've had that. And Simon Pegg, God bless him, is the best thing about this season. He's not in it very long, but his acting through that is tremendous. And that whole thing utterly shattered my heart. It just... I didn't like break down sobbing, but when that episode was over, I needed a few minutes. Like, that was rough. But that whole episode, start to finish, is the only start to finish good episode in this season. Everything about it kind of works. The satire's on point. There's emotional that's on point. We get some of the craziness that's on point. Like, that all works. That episode is hands down the best thing this season has to offer. And it's really unfortunate that it's preceded by crap. And you get to that moment and you think, maybe, hey, maybe we can start to turn this around. We had a few rough episodes, not out of the question. And then we go right back off a cliff. And it's a singular high point in pretty much all of this.
All right, let's talk about
because we're limiting this to positive. I'm with you. I'm going to echo some of your other positives in the interest of fairness. Carl Urban and Jeffrey Dean Morgan, yeah, thumbs up. That's pretty good stuff. The reveal, I mean, not to be the I saw it coming guy, but it's not that hard to see coming. So the execution is what matters, right?
There were actually feeds online that I found after this episode aired where they actually did film. If you watch this again, you see the scenes. You can see people in the background acknowledging it. It is a little Fight Club. They acknowledge Billy. They're not acknowledging what the hell. I don't even remember what Jeffrey Dean Morgan's character's name was.
Kessler, I want to say.
Kessler, yeah, but they're not acknowledging Kessler. They're looking at Billy. They're not looking at Kessler. They did put little seeds in there that you just have to be really observant to notice that kind of thing.
So if you do pay attention to that kind of stuff, and I do, I mean, if you want another example of like why some people, there's like 3 or 4 different movies that if you watch them at the right point in your time, in your development, it kind of imprinted on you that you pay attention to how these things interact. Fight Club is not actually the best example to Mark's point. Like, it's utterly nonsensical if you actually think about it for half a second.
What about Sixth Sense?
Sixth Sense is one. The other one's A Beautiful Mind. Because if you rewatch A Beautiful Mind, at no point does anyone other than Russell Crowe interact with Paul Bettany during a time when he's supposed to be just his college best friend. So there's a few of these movies that you start keying into, like, how does the world interact around these characters? So it wasn't difficult to figure out that Kessler's probably not real, right? But so how do we reveal that? Him turning and yelling at the projection of Becca to shut up is about the best way you could have done that, because when Butcher turns around and looks at them, it's what was it? It was described online as follows: when your best friend starts yelling at your imaginary girlfriend. Like, oh no, oh no. So I'll echo that.
There's also some great cinematography, both before the reveal and after the reveal, where you realize Kessler has been always shot, not always, but he's frequently shot behind Butcher, kind of like off to the side a little bit, literally framing him as the devil on Butcher's shoulder.
Yes,
So,
there's
very
some
creative.
really excellent blocking. There's some very excellent blocking in those scenes.
But
when
as
you're
far as,
done,
like,
there's something I want to address with Homelander. So just let me.
Okay, well, let me do the Homelander bit real fast then.
Yeah.
I mean, we have done nothing but praise Anthony Starr for his portrayal of Homelander. This is no exception. He is so good as this character that you almost forget how good he is. Like you need to. You have to take moments and back away from something that's so good that he's just so good for so long. It's routine. His greatness is expected in this role, and you have to take a step back and just really kind of appreciate the scenes where he's like looking over and at coughing Firecracker and the utter disgust that crosses his face for less than a second.
The acting on his face anytime he feels like Sage is superior to him. You know, she says to him in the beginning, like, if you listen to me, I'll do this, but my problem is your ego won't be able to take it. And he goes, no. And, you know, it's a very macho thing. No. You can't emasculate me. My ego can take anything, and immediately doesn't. And just struggles until he finally fires her.
I actually do remember laughing at that. It's like, because it's like, he says specifically, I need somebody who is not going to kiss my ass 24/7, because he can't rely on Deep, he can't rely on Noir, he can't rely on Ashley. She's too freaking petrified to say no. I credit, by the way, to that actress, the way that she plays her this whole series. Like, she's like somebody stuck in a landmine field.
She has the second
that there's something is gonna explode.
She has my second favorite human moment of this entire series, and it's the bit with the Dom sub thing that she does, where I think it's the TV host that breaks up with her, and he was like, "This only worked for me." God, Jesse, it reminded me of the Deuce.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yeah. Remember when what's her face? Somebody, Dominique Fishback. She's like, once you let me into the make believe, I don't believe you anymore.
Right.
This relationship no longer works for me. This poor relationship doesn't work. Very similar thing he says to her. He's like, well, you're not in charge anymore, so you don't really feel like a Dom. And without you being in charge, this Dom sub thing doesn't really work for me anymore. And she's just like, you're breaking up with me, and it's like not listening to what he's saying. It's like, this relationship is now fractured beyond repair because you've lost your power. Without that power,
then
you
she
can't
somewhat
hold that
blithely
position.
Then she somewhat blithely gets him killed over it.
Yeah, well, another human moment.
Just a brief note on Ashley. This is one of the few things that Sage gets wrong, but I wonder if it wasn't intentional. Because she refers to Ashley as the human evolutionary equivalent of a capybara. I don't know if you've ever seen capybaras, ladies and gentlemen out there. Capybaras have one personality trait. This is universal to them, by the way. I apologize for the profanity that I'm about to drop, but it's the most emphatic way to make my point. Capybaras don't give a fuck.
Okey-dokey.
These things will hang out with anything. You can look this up online. There's video of them like, oh, I'm in a field of caimans. These things eat me. I'm just going to sit here. They're giant rodents. They're the biggest rodent on the planet. Like, there's video. There's a housing development in Argentina. I forget exactly where, but capybaras are kind of native to it. And they, built this housing development and put up a fence. And the capybaras are like, nah, we're still hanging out here.
That's great.
Your fence can't stop. Hang on, no, your fence can't stop us. You've changed the ecosystem. There's houses. There's very well manicured trees. And the capybaras are just like, nah, gonna hang out here.
All right, I want to get
So
back to
I was just saying, so the takeaway for tonight's show is that Robert knows the proper procedure for a lobotomy and knows a lot about capybaras.
So I want to talk about the Homelander scene where he figures out that in order for him to get where he needs to be, he needs to go super evil. I'm short shrifting it, but that's basically what happens. The reason I'm bringing it up is
hey, remember what I said about how this is all stuff we've already done before and better?
Yeah, sure.
Wow, Homelander's gonna have to go back and confront the fact that he was raised by a bunch of scientists only interested in his physical abilities. How have I seen this before?
Yeah,
yes.
in fairness, it's a great one-act play.
Sure, like it is, and it's borderline Tarantino-esque in some respects in terms of the tension building and whatnot.
Yeah, you kind of you jumped ahead of me. So one of the things I like about it, Jesse, I don't know how much horror you watch. I know these two are abused, traumatized people who like to see gore being thrown at the screen for some strange reason. But
sadists.
Yeah, I don't understand them. But you know, I was talking about
what
this.
What kind of party are you watching SummerSlam at again, Mark?
Your mother. So anyway.
Is it clothing optional? Is that what's going on here? Is that one of these things?
Clothing optional, yes. It's making fun of me because we've discussed it offline.
Oh boy.
Anyway, my point is that Sean and I were talking about this when we were discussing Mike Flanagan, and I said his most effective. The reason why his horror is effective is he makes the most use of tension, probably in modern horror, and
probably yeah.
And I would tell you that the bits in that one episode with Homelander and the lab and all of that was a one-act horror play.
Yeah.
Where the reason why it's horrific is it's because it's effective use of tension. Because Homelander is quite amiable when he walks into the room.
He brought Fudgy the whale.
That's right.
He did. I was like, what the fuck year am I in? Is that even still?
Could have brought Cookie Puss.
Is Carvel still a? Yeah, is Carvel still a thing? Is fucking Cookie Puss still a thing? But he walks in with Fudgy the whale and. You really don't. I'm like, you know why he's there if you're paying any kind of attention, but still, you're like, I'm willing to go on this trip with him, and it's slow and it's slow and it's slow, and then he focuses on the one guy and then he burns him alive, and it's slow and people are starting to freak out now, but it's still going slow, and then he says to the woman, "I'm gonna show you why this room is the bad room or whatever."
It's the bad room.
And then there's a cut and it's just blood and guts everywhere, and she's covered in it, and he walks out, hair tousled. And he goes, "My work here is done." And
then he up the lasers to weld the door shut and just walks out.
Yep. And like I said, because the show throws so much garbage at the screen, so much
blood and guts,
it's hard. It's gory, but it's not scary.
It's like 2 episodes later when he grabs Spider-Man and tears him in half like a phone book.
Right. Yeah. And I wasn't moved at all. Okay, I know everyone likes to make fun, say I'm a pussy pansy, hey, I hate horror person, but I watched that and went meh. What frightened me was the stuff in the lab because of the effective use of the tension in that scene and how well Anthony Starr played off of it.
Yeah, 100%.
Absolutely. I was going to say, we may have seen something like that before, but I say it was worth it to watch it again because Anthony Starr is so good in that scene. The bit where he's telling the guy, go in the oven. And oh my God. Yeah, he is. It really, I know I've brought this up before, but it just is amazing when you see this man play Homelander and then you see him doing an interview on TV and it's like, this is the same guy?
Got any comments on that or any other Homelander stuff, Jesse, before we start to roll out?
Well, yeah. Hey, I mean, that whole lab scene that you're talking about, I was right there with you. And you're making a good, point here because there is you have gore, but really when you get down to the horror of things, it's something like that really makes it sink in. Because you're sitting there wondering like, okay, he's got all of the power in the room, literally and figuratively and all that. He can make anybody do pretty much what he wants them to do, provided they want to stay alive. Everybody in that room wants to stay alive. So he proceeds to just make things more and more depraved at some point. You know, it just starts to go down this
little
black
things
hole.
like go get forks and knives for the cake, and like we don't want to die. Please
Yeah,
leave.
it's like you know, it's just one little thing he's asking, and all you got to do is go get it. And
yeah,
all those other scientists down there, they are just so terrified. It's like, if we play nice, will you let us live?
They know they're dead. They know they're dead. They know what's gone on there, and yeah, they're just trying to get out alive. But yeah, I agree 100%. And Anthony Starr, man, I mean, it's hard to see this season have a lot of detriment to it. Granted, I enjoyed what I did, but I think I have more criticism about this season than I have had other ones for sure. And to watch
good.
Well, and to watch Anthony Starr try to, you know, this is what he's kind of known for, and he's one of the reasons kind of why I keep coming back to this.
Yeah,
because of his portrayal, and you know, you want to see him get his. But yeah.
I want to talk about the ending, and then we're gonna pull out of this unless one of you has such a burning desire that I never got to, and I feel sorry if we didn't.
I can be succinct, but I do have several like overarching things that I think need to be said about why.
Give it to me in 50 words or less, and then I want to talk about the ending. Go.
Okay. This is what happened. So to back up briefly, part of why this show was so successful was a willingness to point satire at all directions, including at itself at times, which is actually I commendable. I mean that in all sincerity. That went away. You had well-written characters who were interesting. That went away this season by and large. Starlight does nothing other than
yell at Butcher.
She yells at Butcher. She gets outed as having had an abortion. And boy, what a stupid thing to make a throwaway part of a character arc. I'm not opposed to that discussion being had, for the record. Like, I have my view on it, but I'm not opposed to it being part of media. But if it's, you know, it's revealed on national...
It's an inciting incident so she can act like an asshole on national television to give the bad guys a leg up.
I'm sorry. Can I say something about that?
Sure.
Guys, women's rights are currently under attack, and women are slut-shamed. We are shamed constantly if we even mention the word abortion. Starlight, as we have seen in the past, has been an advocate for the Christian superheroes. She is pushing for the current president, who's the President Idiots, as I'm calling him. Again, supernatural
Bobby
reference.
Singer.
Bobby
Same
Singer.
name for that character by the same actor. It's Bobby Singer.
Oh, I know. And I freaking love that he actually says the word idiots when he's in the bunker. It's like, yes,
we're in the middle of a rant.
The fact that her personal records are outed, and not just her personal records on a decision that no one has any right to judge her on, and are used against her. I'm sorry. Maybe it's because I'm the only girl in this group, but that moment when she lost it and when she went to go punch Firecracker, I was cheering. I was like, yeah, sorry. I know that it was a setup. I know that Sage gave her that because they wanted to get her to blow up and attack Firecracker on TV. But I was fucking cheering for her.
Good. That's great. Here's the thing. If somebody outs you on television, you punch them, you go to jail. And that's the whole thing in that scene. I mean, look, no one here is saying that people should be outed for having abortions or mistreated for having abortions. Not a single person on this podcast. Not a single person on this podcast thinks that sort of thing should be broadcast. Your private business should be broadcast to the world. Nobody's saying that. However, there's something happening in that scene. That's what Robert's talking about. And the expectation is when you're a public figure, you have to act a certain way. Look, Will Smith slapped the fuck out of Chris Rock, and in this country nearly had a goddamn riot about it. You can't. When you are a public figure, whether you're outed or something else happens to you, you're still expected to act appropriately. And she beat the fuck out of that woman on national television. She was manipulated into doing so that the bad guys could move on in their next step. What Robert's saying is that it was trivialized. They used something like outing someone's abortion basically to move the plot forward. And that's a writing issue.
Yeah.
That's
But
what he was getting
I'm
at.
disagreeing because as a woman who sees this happen, if you were outed for something like that, it could destroy your life. And that's actually a problem, is that so many women don't know if they should reveal it or not. They don't know how their family is going to react to it. We have Starlight's mother, like, just so mad at her for this because her mother's a good Christian. I'm sorry, guys. It was not trivialized. Something
hang
like
on.
that happening to a woman was serious.
My issue is twofold here about this. If you want to have that discussion on your show, my problem is they do trivialize it. Okay, how much time do we spend with Starlight and the angst with her mother over this? You get one scene where Starlight says, I haven't talked to her. Then when they do talk, it's like 30 seconds and it's nothing. You get one bit where she and Huey talk about, you knew I struggled with that decision. And then it's gone. This is a thing that if you want to make it so it feels like they chose something somewhat arbitrarily to evoke an emotional reaction.
Yeah,
and then didn't treat it.
They chummed the water is what they did.
Yeah,
they took clearly, because we're now having kind of a tense discussion about it. Which again, I would like to say, nobody here is disagreeing with anyone's right to choose, or that this isn't a serious subject. Shut up. Or that this is a serious subject. None of that. This is a conversation about writing and taking a big issue and trivializing it, as opposed to taking a big issue and giving it the weight and breadth that it deserves. Yes. Right. Go ahead, Robert.
Yeah, so that's my biggest gripe with that. I don't care what you do with your fictional character as far as what she did. I don't even phrase this carefully. I have my opinions on this. And the fact that I would not personally be swayed by Starlight's argument does not negate the fact that they put the character in a position where she's expressing something that is relatable as far as her motivation for this goes. I don't even object to that, but this is such a weighty, this is the last weighty topic they could throw at you, right? Like everything else that is a deep issue across the culture war, and much as I hate that thing, everything else they've hit. Right? We've done the religious thing. We've made fun of the religious. We've made fun of the atheists. We've made fun of the Democrats. We've made fun of the Republicans. We've made fun of the straights, and we've made fun of the gays. Like, they have hit.
We've made fun of the military. We've made fun of the peaceniks.
Yeah, we've made fun of the hippies. They have shot everything at you, pretty much except abortion. And it feels like that's why they chose this. There's a lot of tools you could throw to piss off Starlight to the point where she goes nuts.
Yeah, you chose something that deserves a lot more weight and seriousness and time than it got, is the point he's trying to make.
Yeah. So there's that. Kimiko is nothing but, hey, let's revisit her traumatic past again. Frenchie did a lot of bad things, didn't he? How about he goes back into drug use?
8 fucking episodes of The Tortured Frenchman. I'd rather watch a Reffin film.
I wasn't that far gone, but boy, I was close.
I'll sit through this season again.
It was close. So that's just, again, it's a rehash, but okay. So I remember where I got off topic. Circling back to my point. You had interesting characters that were well written for the previous seasons. What we've done in this season is flanderized all of them.
Hey, 10 words or less, what does flanderize mean?
Flanderization is a TV trope wherein you take a previously three-dimensional character and reduce them down to one essential characteristic, and that becomes the defining characteristic of all of their presentation and personality.
Oh, it's like when your entire personality is Star Wars?
It's taken from Ned Flanders, the fact that he went from a 3D dimensional character, hi diddly ho neighbor, and that's literally all he is now.
Gotcha.
Yeah, there used to be more going on with Ned Flanders in the early episodes of The Simpsons. In fact, go back and rewatch them if you don't believe me. And then it just became, he's got the weird speech patterns and he's super religious. And that's all he is. And that's not all he used to be. He was, again, that's where that term comes from. So Butcher is now nothing but half conflicted about my lost wife. Been there before with this guy. And I hate superheroes. Been there before, but now everything interesting about his motivation and whatnot is gone. And oh, by the way, you were we dropped for some reason, like, yeah, you slept with a bunch of other women. I'm sorry, that's another thing that, like, you don't just drop that as a line and then not really deal with it.
No, because it only matters when women sleep with other men, not the other way around.
Then again, we've got Mother's Milk, and all he does is be a little bit torn about, I don't like Butcher, but am I cut out to lead? And I want to be there for my family. That's all he is. Go down the list on all of these characters. We have Flanderized them, which means they're no longer interesting because they're no longer well written. Here's the real problem with the engagement you might have with this season. When you take away the interesting part of these characters, when you take away like the nuance and the well-writtenness of them, none of these people are worth rooting for. Not a one of them. So now all you have is unlikable people doing almost caricatures of themselves from beforehand in a terrible world with all of this badly paced out. And you can have unlikable characters if they're well written. There's whole TV series that are bad people, unlikable people. You can count the likable,
Breaking Bad, The Wire, Sopranos.
You can count the likable characters on any of those shows one hand. But they are compelling and they are interesting and they are well written. And that will carry you through unlikable characters. But that means if they're not, boy, do you lose investment. Boy, is there nothing to root for.
It's funny. I said that at the beginning when we started talking about Sons of Anarchy. I said, I don't want to see any of these people win. Why am I watching this? And that's where we are now with the boys.
Wait, I was going to say, yeah.
All right.
So that's the biggest one. I did have one other sort of positive, and I remember it. If there's another positive here, Huey and A-Train, I think would be the other positive thing about this season. Deliberately,
A-Train has a really nice arc.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a great movie coming out too.
Oh my god!
Yeah,
With Will Ferrell.
Yeah, until they decided to go all David Zaslav on it.
Oh man, that was
Go ahead,
hilarious.
Robert. Sorry.
Well, again, that was
It's a write-off.
true to life. But A-Train and Huey doing a deliberate reverse of Butcher and Homelander, I think was a good idea.
Yeah, Huey's thing about I don't want to hate you anymore. Hate is bad. Hate does nothing but make you a bad person.
Yeah,
and I don't want to be, and I don't want to be bad. I think everything you said about every other character in this show, I think is true except for Huey.
Huey's
still the heart of
not
thing.
being. Huey is the closest to not being that.
Yeah. Well, I would tell you he's not. I mean, he has a really great line in this where he was, this is after, I think this is after the BDSM scene. This is after he's been splattered upon. After a whole bunch of stuff has happened, and he finally just says, "No, I'm not okay." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm with you, buddy." It was a nice little moment.
Yeah. Speaking of A-Train, can we talk about how great that scene was when he drops Mother's Milk off at the hospital and sees the little kid looking at him?
I was so expecting him to be dead next episode. Not Mother's Milk, but this is the kind of show where you give a character like A-Train that moment, so he dies horribly very soon.
Mm-hmm. All right, you were starting to wrap up there, and then we got other stuff we got to talk about real quick.
Yeah, what else did I struggle with?
No, you were on one thing, and we don't dump all over
yeah.
you.
So that was the one other positive. But yeah, the fact that everyone else is one note. The Deep is one note. And hang on, if there's an underappreciated actor in this show, it's the guy playing the Deep.
Chase Crawford.
If you put that same writing and that same character in any other actor's hands, I think they would have killed him off at the end of season 1 because it's unusable.
All right. I'm calling it. There's one last thing I want to talk about, and it's the final sequence of events. I was okay with Neuman.
Hey, January 6th is still a thing, right? This won't date us horribly, right?
Oh yeah.
Who gives a fuck? Moving on. So the Neuman character didn't bother me as much.
Worst I didn't mention it before, but the worst victim of the bad writing of this season is Victoria Neuman. That character deserves so much better.
So we have two things going on, and we have whether or not we should do genocide to all the superheroes via a virus. Something, given everything that's happened the last 4 years, still on people's minds.
The answer's probably yes, but no one wants to do it.
Yeah, well, so we're debating on whether or not to do genocide. We have Neuman, who is, morally all over the place, and then decides when she's, the one under fire. Maybe it's time I do something about this. Billy Butcher, one last attempt to finally get the kid under control, and it all goes tits up. And at the very last thing we see is Billy Butcher with brand new superpowers, walk in, rip Neuman in half, kill the daughter, take the virus, and which then leads to Homelander putting everybody in concentration camps. I don't want to be here for 3 hours, so I'm not going to talk too much about the concentration camp stuff, except to say this. And unless you have a 5-word or less response to it, I really don't want to discuss it. This country's obsession with concentration camps and the worry that one political party is going to put the rest of us there is ridiculous. It is right up there with these people who are afraid of a fucking draft. Read a book. Listen to a goddamn interview of anybody with any political power. None of these people are talking about camps or drafts. As a matter of fact, many of them have come out and said at least the draft. No one's crazy enough to talk publicly about camps. It's not happening. However, Rumsfeld did talk about a draft and said draft armies are unusable. This country's collective anxiety about these things, the fact that it comes out in our fiction, drives me right up the wall. And so there it is, right at the end of this stupid show. They're going into camps. Yay!
As a brief in defense of. Doing this with a bunch of superpowered individuals who can enforce this unilaterally is actually like the only inciting incident that would make this believable in the United States these days.
Sure, but we don't actually live with superheroes, which makes the commentary on it that much more stupid and shallow.
It's a comic book, man.
For the record, I am looking forward to this, building up to that scene in the comic book with the army of superheroes coming onto the lawn of the White House. Jesse, you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, if they're pulling directly from the comic book, I can somewhat forgive this. My problem is I can't get past I know too many people, and there are a lot of them living in Hollywood, who think that, oh my God, if too many Republicans get elected to office, we're all going into camps. And it's like, please fucking read a book. I'm sorry, Jesse. It drives me nuts.
I was going to say, for the record, it is also established they have a contact with private prisons who is down.
You know how long private prisons have been around? At least 50 years. Want to know how many of us have been put in private prisons that didn't commit a felony?
Again, I'm talking about on the show, not saying that this is real. I'm talking about.
I thought you were making an argument. We're like they're using private prisons for actual American citizens.
No, trust me. If we had more time, I have a whole soapbox about private prisons, but I'm not getting on that. No, I'm talking about the character. I'm talking about them using the character of Tech Knight.
Oh,
I have never known how to pronounce that dude's name.
Okay,
it's Tech Knight, and what a badly written character.
So Jesse, what did you think of the finale episode and all of that bit with them getting taken off into camps?
I mean, look, like I said, it's a comic book. I'm expecting, we've got to right this wrong, right? So that's what this whole next season is going to be.
Right.
This is the last season coming up, right? The finale.
Yeah,
thank God.
I think you guys, one of you guys said to me, like, okay, they've announced next season will be the last one. Be ready for filler. this season, which is kind of what we got. I mean, and it's Winfree. I see what you're saying, man, because it feels like what they were doing is just taking those aspects of those people and just really stretching them out as best as they can so they can get to the finale, the final season. And it didn't work and it aggravated me a little bit every once in a while. But as far as the finale, I mean, look, I'm gearing up for what's going to happen next season. We're at a level where, okay, we want these villains to lose. I'm all for it. I like the last episode. I'm ready for the next season, season 5.
Did seeing the superheroes get carted off by the superheroes give you the willies there, Alexis?
For the record, though, we should also point out that we are supposed to be getting a Gen V season 2, and they didn't make that announcement that we're going to get a prologue miniseries around Soldier Boy. Translation: we just love Jensen Ackles and want to do more with him.
Could not be any less excited for any of what you just said. So did seeing the superheroes actually give you like an emotional reaction, or like did you like it and dislike it?
I know that Robert's going to say it's contrived as hell, but the scene with Kimiko's actually screaming for Frenchie did give me a bit of a lump in my throat.
That is, of all the other ones that are kind of stupid, that one worked. And
that's why I asked that question, because I was waiting for one of you to be like, yeah, the Kamiko stuff actually like sold the entire sequence of events, because honestly, to Robert's point, watching these bag of shits be carried off by the superheroes, knowing we're getting another season of this and they'll eventually undo it all, is like, well, whatever. And then Kamiko screaming at the end, I'm like, and it took me a minute to realize, oh wait, she's mute.
She's talking, yeah. Well,
wait a second. Her first words are, in response to, I know Robert's been talking about how we've seen all this before, but there is still so much of it I enjoyed, because the theme for me, you guys talked about how last season the theme was identity roles and gender roles. You talked a lot about Huey dealing with, it's like, I have to be the guy and I have to protect my woman, and how he has to deal with that. For me, I saw this season as more of an identity crisis, because we see all of the characters really struggling with where they are at this point and how they've gotten there and whether or not it's what they want to do. We talked about with Starlight, but I was actually kind of intrigued by it because it reminded me a lot of the sequence in Spider-Man 2 where Spider-Man is losing his powers.
Right.
She is so shaken. She doesn't know who she wants to be. Ever since she abandoned the Starlight persona in the last season and quit, she doesn't know what she wants to be. These people are rallying around her, and that's where you get the Starlighters. That's the names of her supporters. But she doesn't know if she wants that. You have Mother's Milk, but his identity crisis is not so much wrapped up in his ex-wife and daughter. It's as an anxiety. This poor guy has a panic attack. He's got freaking hives. You have a literal identity crisis with Butcher, because he's got again, angel devil situation going on.
Brain tumor will do that to you.
Yeah, pretty much. You have Huey, who, in the first season got squeamish around blood, and now we see him fight off that one cult guy, or what was the name of the Shining Light?
Shining Light, yeah.
Shining Light, and he kills him in self-defense, and his face is splattered in blood, and he doesn't even flinch.
Which he actually says in the show. It's like, I used to get squeamish at the sight of blood, and now I don't even flinch.
Exactly. You have Frenchie, who feels all of this pain for everything finally coming back and haunting him when he looks at Colin, and he now realizes he has to atone for his past. Kimiko runs into the person that she scarred, and now she's dealing with the atonement as well. And I do love this idea of Frenchie and Kimiko basically saying, it's like, no, we have to fix ourselves. We can't fix each other. And that's true. You do not want to be with somebody just because you want them to fix each other. But then they realize it's not a case of we need to fix each other. It's a case of we can be our better selves together and work on ourselves while still being together. And I really think that was a positive message. So I enjoyed seeing these characters go through these crises. I mentioned I loved A-Train's identity crisis. I loved the scene of him putting Mother's Milk on the gurney and seeing the little boy looking at him, because you have an earlier scene where he's talking to his nephews about his first save, and his brother says, yeah, and it was totally fake. This is probably the first time he has actually done one truly heroic act in his life. And he realized it, and I loved that. We even have Firecracker going through a bit of an identity crisis, because she is bent over backwards for a Homelander to give him whatever he wants. And we see, when he kills Web Weaver. Side note, I can't believe none of you guys brought up the shitting spider webs when he's nervous scene. I was waiting.
I wanted to.
What did you
Because
say?
it's a Deadpool dog joke. You're a little too in love with your own stupid writing. So you take a joke and you take it way too far past the point where it was funny anymore.
I never said it was funny. I was just waiting for one of you guys to bring it up. But even then, you see the scene of her getting really upset when he kills Web Weaver, and then she's upset because she's getting sick because she augmented her body to help him, and he doesn't care. And you see it in her expression, the scene where she's in the bathroom at the mansion. She's like, am I really going to go through with all of this?
Right.
So that's what I took out of this season, and that's why I really liked it.
All right. Jesse, you got anything else?
No, man, this is, I'm glad we got to see the kind of like the post credits at the end where we get to see Soldier Boy, who is obviously he's got to be a big part of the last season. So it'll be nice to see him come back.
They've said specifically, like, his goal in the 5th season is to kill Butcher.
Okay. All right.
Okay. I got a question for you, Robert, and just Robert. Okay. This is just a question for Robert, because I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about it. We've both been kind of on this journey together. Jesse, you did the Gen V review with Alexis. You've been here with us, and I'm sure when season 5 rolls around, you'll be there to do it. Alexis, clearly this is a series, this is an IP that you're into, so I'm sure you'll be there. Robert, are we done? Are me and you just done with this now?
Oh, you guys.
No, really? This is a genuine question to close the podcast. Because I'm sitting here for the last hour and a half, we've had a spirited discussion about the show, but other than some of the craft elements that we've said, some were good, some were bad, we both seem to sort of be at our wit's end with anything that brought us to the show in the first place, other than it's a comic book show. So my question remains, are you done? Are we coming back for another review is more the question.
If we weren't sure that 5 was the end, I would be.
Okay.
That's what I was going to say. I mean, how would you walk away knowing that the next season is going to be the final season?
Yeah.
Knowing how how are they going to really fuck it up? Or is it
I just want to see how bad this gets.
I mean, that's essentially what you can look at it as. Is like, okay, is it going to be a real train wreck, or can they come back from
Jesse
this
won't let us
and
quit
make it
this.
matter?
Have you noticed?
Well, I mean, you guys don't have to do Gen V or the Soldier Boy spinoff, obviously.
I obviously won't be doing that. Oh boy.
No,
That's all you, sister.
All right, Jesse, will you be on with me for those?
I will be in.
Of course you will.
Thank you.
Come on. Go ahead, Robert.
But to really answer your question, if I was left in the dark, if like, hey, maybe we'll get season 6 after season 5, you're fighting too hard to maintain the status quo at that point, and it's not interesting anymore. Like everything about this season could have been 2.5 episodes, give or take.
Mm-hmm.
And it should have been like the start of your final act. That's all it should have been, is first couple of episodes of season 5, and then we just get into finishing this off.
Yeah, we should have gotten to the private prison / camp scene 2 or 3 episodes into this.
And we should, and again, in theory, this would have been the last season. Obviously, they went a different direction with it. I will come back to watch to get it done. I absolutely will. I enjoyed the first 3 enough that I'm kind of willing to say, okay, this was not a good season of television. I think top to bottom.
I'm coming back because Jesse won't let me quit this. I hinted that I might not come back, and Jesse was like threw his fucking headset down. I was like ready, like motherfucker, you can't quit this.
I mean, we already know what the formula is going to be, right? Like we know
me stopping you guys from arguing. Yeah, that's not how I know.
Sure.
You mean the show, not the podcast.
Show. Yeah,
okay, fine. Then here's the $1 million question: who kills Homelander?
Bad writing. Finish, Jesse.
I was just going to say, this is a kind of show where I would be like, I wouldn't be surprised if they somehow let the villains win. And
one can hope.
I really
wanna
think
see-
that they would do that.
All right, so I'm gonna play Alexis's fantasy pitch game that she likes to do. All right,
boy.
and 10 words
What?
or
So
less.
I like to start. It's a good way to start conversations.
Okay.
I'm the
So
absolute
here-
worst
so
at this
here-
game, by the way. Go
Okay.
ahead.
So here's how we're gonna end the podcast. All right, because I have an image in my head. That's why I want to play this game. I think it's an interesting thought of like, well, how do they end it? Do they subvert expectations and let the bad guys win? Or do the good guys win? So here's how I want the last image. This is all I want you guys to speak to. What's the last image of the last scene of The Boys? And I want them to have Homelander aping Alexander the Great, just leaning against a rock, just tired and sighing, I have conquered the world and there was no more world left for me to conquer. And we just iris out. Jesse, how do you end The Boys? What's the final picture? What's the final scene?
Criminy. How I think they could do it. What I'd love to see, I guess. Let's just do it that way. I mean, I want to see the typical hero get one over on the villain, and I want it to be Huey that does it. So yes, if we're asking who kills Homelander, it's Huey that does it. And by the end of this, the United States, the world has not learned a damn thing. That's essentially how we're going to roll this out.
So we still have superheroes, but there's no Homelander.
Huey will be head of Vought, and then we have the whole spinoff where he it's like an office show. So let's put that up.
All right.
I hate how much I know somebody else pitched that before you in sincerity.
Oh no.
All right. What's the final image, Alexis?
I'm actually scared they're probably going to do a Last Jedi because I honestly think they're going to release the pandemic. I don't know if they're going to find a way for Starlight and Kimiko and Ryan to survive. I think maybe they could, since we know Soldier Boy's coming back, maybe he could do that depowerization thing on them again. Although it wouldn't surprise me if Kimiko does end up dying. But I think we are going to have the plague, and then we're going to start up again years later, and then we're going to see that there are now some naturally occurring superheroes. We're going to get like, what I'm talking about with Last Jedi, when you have that little boy who uses the Force to get the broom. Yeah, I think we're going with that.
Okay, very good. Robert, in 50 words or less, 50 words everyone can understand.
Yeah.
The final image.
I've been here before.
First of all, I will not dumb down my vocabulary for you. I
can almost guarantee the feedback on the show is this was a little too much conversation for most people. So have at it, I suppose.
Okay, so final image. Okay, there's what I want, and then what I think. Okay, the absolute like crazy one. If you want the crazy one,
I want you to move.
I want to hear it. I want to hear it.
Aliens.
Perfect.
And it ends with the Independence Day aliens blowing up the White House.
Love it. Print.
Okay.
So there's that. At this point, like I said, my wanted one. End of Terminator 3. I want to see the nukes flying. Like, this is not a world worth saving at this point.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, folks, that has been our review, as much fun as it was, of The Boys Season 4. I had fun talking about this, guys. Thank you, Alexis, for coming on.
This was more fun than watching the show. So
absolutely.
Thank you all.
Jesse, always a pleasure.
Oh,
sure. And I'm sure, and we'll all be back in 2 years for Season 5, The Search for More Money.
I can only hope it's only 2 years.
If you can't wait till that, go find in the archives mine and Jesse's discussion on Gen V.
Alrighty. Yesterday, speaking of Gen V, we had your boyfriend, Zachary Strobel, and Shay Tate on for our Deadpool and Wolverine review. It's actually a very nice review. We got it under 2 hours. We weren't too mean about it. We didn't drive the other two off in tears. All in all, it was a success. So Anna cut a clip of it for TikTok. That's on my TikTok at Mark Radulich. Next week,
I hesitate to ask which thing you clipped.
I'm tired of all you people, so I clipped me. Actually, no. So we've been doing for a little over a year now, like let's talk for 15 minutes so I have something that isn't the review to pull for TikTok so people will go to the review. Nobody does. So I'm like, fuck it. I'll just pull part of the review now because that's all anyone ever cares about. And me starting my review with, here, do you want to know what I thought of the fucking movie? I liked it. You done now? Leave me alone so I can talk about what I want to talk about and criticize this movie. I was like, you know what? That's what I'm putting on TikTok. Me chastising people for bothering me about my opinion.
And they will not understand that you're chastising. They'll think they won.
Yep. Indubitably. Alrighty. Next week. Okay, Sunday, Jesse and I are back in the studio and we are doing another sessions.
Yes, we are.
And I was gonna work. We were gonna work on the new Damn You Hollywood song, but I'm bumping it because YouTube is now copyright infringing our On Trial theme.
Oh,
yeah. So the last On Trial I did with Ronnie, that violated copyright because we used the Night Court theme, which it wasn't doing before, but now it is. So I decided that the next, which I designed a logo for it and everything. So we're gonna work on a new On Trial song.
Okay.
A full On Trial song that I'll just cut out 30 seconds for the new theme.
Sure.
But I want an actual On Trial song, Jesse.
Okay. All right.
For the Radulich Broadcasting Network album.
That'll be fun.
And because I can't quit Jesse Starcher and Ronnie Adams, the next night we'll be doing Sons of Anarchy Season 7. It took 8 months to do 7 episodes. So we're finally getting this done.
Dude, the state of streaming television is so weird. Like Stranger Things is about to turn 12.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It takes a long time.
At least I can't remember if it's 10 or 12, but like you spend 10 years for what? 4.5 episodes of television? What are we doing here? Like, I understand that we don't necessarily want to make this too draconian, but there is something to be said for a legitimate production schedule.
Speaking
and the 20 episode season. Just saying.
All right. Well, the Rebecca to my Sam, Alexis Hejna, is going to be hosting her own show this next week from Thursday, House of the Dragon Season 2, with Andrew Orozco from Geek Movie News or whatever the hell it's called, and David Wright from whatever podcast he chooses.
Looking forward to that. The penultimate episode was 2 nights ago, and it was awesome. We actually got apparently the director who worked on American Horror Story and a bunch of other horror-themed TV shows, and it worked because we actually got a very intense scene with the dragons that was like something out of Cloverfield. Cool. Really well done.
Ooh.
I may or may not be on Movies That Don't Suck and Sun That Do, talking Trap and hopefully Back to Black. Neil had an episode of Bell's Palsy, which, he said it's not going to keep him off the show. We'll see. He said he's definitely coming on for Deadpool, but I don't know how, if they're going to keep their schedule or not. But before that, Chris and I talked about me coming on for the new M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong. So that's what I'm doing. Jesse Starcher, I hear you read comic books and paint houses.
I paint houses. All right, then.
I love that trips everybody up. Robert has now heard me do that so many times.
Yeah, the first time you said it to me, I was like, what?
I do not get the reference. But I'm sitting here legitimately thinking,
it's mob talk for being a hitman.
Okay. Go watch, you need to go watch The Irishman.
Do not watch The Irishman.
You'll never
get up to that.
It's like Poltergeist. It just pulls you in and you never let you go. And you go into another realm.
Yeah. I could tell you that I do not paint houses. I don't paint pictures either. But I do talk comics. And yes, recently you can tell, I think this past Monday, if you look at the Source Material Comics feed, you should be able to see Unspoken Issues, where we talk 90s comics, and we were talking Malibu from 1992, The Protectors, issues 1 through 6. A lot of political drama in that book for a comic book that came out in 92.
Oh, my
a lot of fun.
Garden. How did you even stand it?
Yeah, it was interesting. I'll just put it that way. Then prior to that, you can hear myself and Mark Radulich on Source Material, where we are, we were at our second episode, I believe.
Here, two cisgendered white males talk all kinds of feminism on Jessica Jones.
Yeah, we're Brian Michael Bendis' Alias.
That was all. That was also our tagline for the review of season 1 of Jessica Jones on Netflix.
Certainly was.
Right. You can see there's quite a bit of. Listen, if you haven't had a chance to listen to our first review, we talk about how the opening of the comic. This is Marvel's Max's imprint with one word. Fuck. And one guy.
2 panels later, she's taking it in the butt from Luke Cage.
Woohoo!
My favorite comic ever.
It was definitely. Yes, it would be. It was the Max imprint for sure. And then, of course, you could check out the Snap Material podcast where me and Evan Bevins get together and talk Snap, Marvel Snap, that is. And recently,
yeah, I was gonna say, when's the good one coming up?
Oh yeah, well, Jonas. Oh boy, Jonas challenged me to a. I'm not gonna spoil it. You'll have to tune in to find out who won. It certainly wasn't me. Jonas took me to school. We played a game of Marvel Snap. It is going to be on the YouTubes. We recorded it that way. So once I get that up there, you can check that out. But it was a lot of fun. And I think that's it. That's all I got. Appreciate you guys having me on.
All right. Besides House of the Dragon and The Acolyte coming up a little less than a week after that, we've got another 4-person show. What else you got going on, Alexis?
I actually need to check my schedule because those are the main ones I've been focusing on. I actually haven't started The Acolyte yet. I plan to binge it, but I needed to get through House of the Dragon and The Boys first because I realized I cannot simultaneously watch and take notes on 3 shows at once.
Yeah, same.
They
I have to do one
together.
I have so many people at my job are just like, "Oh, have you watched this?" Like, no, I have to watch these things in order and only one at a time. So I'm currently in Sons of Anarchy season 7. And who talkie, Jesse? Oi!
I don't know what episode you're on. I'm on episode 3.
I'm on episode 7.
We have The Offer coming up first week of September.
Which one?
The Offer.
Yes, me and you.
Yeah.
Talking the making of The Godfather.
I need to double check. I haven't been on as many Damn You Hollywoods lately. So I just know that's because you two just can't wait to get rid of me. So I don't know how much else I've got.
In fairness, you are well positioned to take my place when I finally peace out of this monstrosity.
Don't say that to her. You and I need to have a conversation, sir.
Look, you got president, vice president, and speaker of the House. Like that. She's just next in the line of succession.
Oh, great. I did want to ask who's interested in doing the new animated Batman adventures that's coming to Amazon Prime, which is currently sitting at early reviews, giving it 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's looking really good. I'm even laughing hysterically because they broke the news that they have gender swapped the Penguin for a character. My only complaint was they named her Oswalda. I'm like, all the names in the world, you just added an A to the end of it. And it's hilarious because we got a million people going, Batman went woke, but then you have them going, wow, Minnie Driver gives a great performance because she's apparently amazing in the role.
My only question is why? It's not like Batman's hurting for female villains to begin with. It seems weird. Well,
we do have Catwoman, and they have made a few changes. We have a new version of Harley Quinn in this as well. So she's completely different.
Of course, there's a new Harley Quinn variant. There's always a new Harley Quinn variant.
I'm not a fan either, but they know what.
If DC has an anchor being at this point, it is in fact Harley Quinn.
Just out of curiosity, did you guys
believe it was the Greek in The Wire who said more. There was always more Harley Quinn.
I was going to ask, last night's show, did you guys figure out who our anchor being is? Because I say it's Keanu Reeves.
No, I didn't ask that question because I thought the whole thing in the movie was stupid.
It is.
I say it's either Keanu Reeves or if we've already lost it, it was David Bowie, and that's why everything's gone straight to shit.
Keep going with your plugs, please. We
are
almost at the 2 hours I didn't want to do.
Sorry. So, yes, I want to see who wants to do the new animated Batman series. Let me know if any of you guys want to come on that. I think it looks like it could be really good since it is coming to us from Bruce Timm, who gave us, arguably one of the greatest comic book adaptation animated shows of all time, if not the greatest. Other than that, other than Slaving for You, of course, we have Honeysuckle Rose Creations, where fashion meets fandom at the intersection of geek and chic. We just uploaded a bunch of new Monopoly bracelets onto our Etsy and handmade at Amazon store. We were supposed to be working a show in Austin this month. Unfortunately, we ended up getting waitlisted. But frankly, I'm actually kind of grateful for that. We had a really bad medical emergency here in Kansas City. And in the end, it's one of those cases you look at the universe and you go, okay, I don't know who planned that ahead, but thank you. Because I'm really glad I didn't have to go out of state during that time. We are still on for the Colorado Springs Comic-Con next month. Going to have a lot of fun with that. We're going to be doing Planet Anime later on this year. We have 4 of the voice actors from Has-Been Hotel coming, and all 4 of the main cast of Ruby, among others. So that we're expecting a big crowd for that. Again, you can find our shops on Etsy and Handmade at Amazon, and you can always follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, I'll never call it X, and TikTok. That's Honeysuckle Rose Creations, the intersection of geek and chic.
Robert Winfree, Take Me Home, Baby Doll.
No, I just throw you on the corner where I found you.
Oh my God.
Jesus Christ.
You have 5 minutes.
I'm a busy boy this week, is the long and the short of it. Podcast yesterday for Deadpool and Wolverine. That was fine. This podcast, which was, again, better than the show. I had more fun doing this than watching the show. Tomorrow, I will be covering AEW's Dynamite because our normal Dynamite guy is got a thing. So I'm up for that. Friday, I will be covering WWE SmackDown. It's the go-home show for SummerSlam, and SmackDown's been in a rut, so yay. Saturday, in the morning, I will be covering UFC on ABC 7. They're in the United Arab Emirates, and frankly, they have a very solid card for this. Good free TV card, really good main event. Full preview on one of the other podcasts I host, the 411 Ground and Pound MMA podcast. Then Saturday evening, I will be covering WWE SummerSlam because
God hates
they
you.
needed someone to do it. So my Saturday is very busy. And yeah, and then Sunday is when I record my MMA podcast. And yeah, I'm going to enjoy having a week off next week from pretty much everything. So that's what I've got this week.
Well done. All right, folks. Thank you for joining us on our review of The Boys Season 4. For Alexis Hejna, for Jesse Starcher, for Robert Winfree. I'm starting to have an allergy attack. Be well, be safe, and behave.